What is up, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Straight from the Dome X's and O's podcast. As always, I'm your host, John. You can follow me on Twitter at 7not6. That is the numbers spelled out all of the way. So, today's episode is going to be just a roller coaster of emotion for me here, because I am tasked with breaking down Deshaun Watson's first game back after tearing his ACL last year. So, let's get the obvious out of the way first. Deshaun was not good on Sunday. There's no way around it. His final stat line was 17 out of 34 for 176 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. This was definitely not the Watson we saw against New England last year, when he had a bona fide Wild West shootout with Brady and damn near came away with the win. This looked much more like the Texans Patriots games we're used to seeing. Brady and Gronk had a field day, our front seven couldn't get to the quarterback, and some former lacrosse player with an irritating name ends up completely uncovered multiple times. Things just work in New England that shouldn't work and don't work anywhere else, which actually brings me to my next point. My biggest fear last season, when we drafted Deshaun, was that O'Brien was going to try to make Deshaun Watson into another Tom Brady, which he is most definitely not another Tom Brady. The guys have two completely different styles of play and two completely different skill sets that can both be successful independent of each other. And unfortunately, you know what Bill O'Brien did for the first 2 quarters yesterday? He tried to make Deshaun Watson play like Tom Brady, and it just did not work. We have a still very young quarterback who is coming in and getting his first real action after an injury and missing quite amount of time, and instead of going through a play calling system that would try to ease Deshaun Watson back in, he had him out there just slinging the rock, and it didn't work. And it's coaching malpractice almost to go out there and just put a player in a position where he's not going to be successful. And that's what Bill O'Brien did, and it really was disappointing to me because I had hoped that he was past that, because I was so excited last year when he was, we were running the triple option and we had sprint outs and all kinds of crazy things like that, and they all worked and it was so much fun to watch. And then this year they talked about how they had revamped the whole playbook in the offseason and everything was geared about what made Deshaun the most comfortable now, and we come out and we were going in 5 wide receiver sets on first down instead of running the ball. And it didn't make sense to me. Now, I know I'm just some random asshole with a podcast, but the thing that I preach all of the time is that the biggest sin that a coach can commit is to not put his players in a position to use their talent most effectively. And that's what happened, man. I mean, Lamar Miller and Alfred Blue were getting what they wanted on the ground for the most part. Like, it wasn't perfect. They weren't just gashing them on the ground or anything like that. But the run game was working. And in the first half, it felt like every time we had a successful run, that the next play, Deshaun Watson is dropping way back and heaving it down the field. And it wasn't working. And I don't understand why Bill O'Brien didn't make adjustments on the fly to try to help out his quarterback. Instead, they just kept running their head into the same wall for the first half, and it was infuriating to watch. Now, don't get me wrong here. Deshaun Watson definitely shares a big part of the blame for his performance on Sunday. He did one of the things that was the most disappointing to me was he played with poor fundamentals, which we didn't see very much from him last year. Last year he was pretty solid in things like footwork and having a quick release and getting through his reads and things like that. We saw it took him a little while, the second half of the Jaguars game, and about the first 3 quarters of the Bengals game, you could see that he was still adjusting to NFL speed and live reps. But once he did, the guy was lightning quick when he was playing. And watching him on Sunday, I don't know how I would describe his first, 3 quarters other than slow. That's the word that I feel most aptly sums up how he played, which was he was standing there flat-footed, just, looking through his reads like he had all the time in the world when he's got a, let's go with untested offensive line in front of him. And then a lot of times when he did deliver the ball, he wasn't stepping into his throws correctly. He's throwing off his back foot or throwing flat-footed, so he's just sailing them. Like, he had a couple where he had Ryan Griffin open in the middle of the field for big gains, and one of them was a touchdown, and he just missed him. Like, there's no other way to put it. He just missed the throw, and it's because he wasn't standing there and using his feet correctly. And Deshaun Watson admitted basically to as much in the post-game interview afterwards, where he said that he played with low energy and he was taking too long to go through his reads. So it's nice that he understands what the issue is. But guys, we had all offseason here. Why did it happen in the first place? Why did we come out with a bad offensive plan in the first half? And why were we playing lazy? And why were we playing with poor fundamentals? These are the kind of things that shouldn't be happening week one. Not when you've had this long to prepare for this game, and not when you're playing against the freaking Patriots, man. Like, you can't make mistakes against Belichick and Brady. You have to execute on just about everything and really hope that they screw something up. That is how you beat New England. And that is not what the Texans did. They went in there and they shot themselves in the foot and then kind of looked at the Patriots and were like, your turn? And the Patriots said, nah, bro, I'm good. We're just going to win the football game. And it's just infuriating to watch as a Texans fan. But don't worry, guys. It's not all completely doom and gloom, because there were some things that were encouraging to see in the second half. So Deshaun Watson's box score in the first half, he went 5 out of 13 for 61 yards and an interception. Now, according to my advanced stats department, that is bad quarterbacking. However, in the second half, he went 12 out of 21 for 115 yards and a touchdown. Now, that's not getting him into Canton or anything like that, but it is not an out-and-out embarrassment like the first half was. So the million-dollar question here is, what was the difference from one half to the next? And honestly, it's not that complicated. You know what they did in the second half? They ran the ball, and they ran the ball pretty well. And it opened up the passing game for Deshaun, and they stopped having him try to, throw the 20-yard out on every other play. In the third quarter, on their touchdown drive that they had, there were 7 runs and 3 passes, and all 3 passes were pretty intermediate throws that Deshaun is comfortable with and that he executes well. That's the kind of stuff that should have happened in the first half. But at least Bill O'Brien and Deshaun showed enough situational... I can't get that sentence out. They showed enough situational awareness to understand from half to half that they were just getting schooled and what they were doing was not working. And they came out in the third and fourth quarter with a different plan of attack and were able to make some adjustments and make the game, at least on paper, look like it was pretty close when it was all said and done. We, technically had the ball with a chance to tie it at the very end, even though we didn't. I mean, honestly, we didn't. But we at least kept it, respectable, because we went out there and we did different things. And we changed up the style of play from one half to the next, and we got the play action going and the run pass option, and Deshaun was moving around in the pocket and he took off and ran a little bit more, and all of the magic last year that made you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, we got a little bit of that back in the second half. Now, as Texans fans, what you just really want to hope was that Bill O'Brien just overthought things because it was New England, and that's what he always does when he plays New England, is he goes out there and has just some backwards idea like, haha, they'll never see this coming, Hail Marys every play, or just whatever asinine strategy he has when he plays the Patriots. And what you're also hoping is that Deshaun Watson just needed to get some actual live reps. Like, yeah, he had a full training camp in the preseason and everything like that, but that's diet football. That's football light. And you cannot prepare yourself for what an actual NFL game is like any other way than just playing in an NFL game. And the fact that Deshaun looked like he got more comfortable and kind of cut it loose a little bit more in the third and fourth quarter should be encouraging if you're a Texans fan. So, yes, he had a bad game, but let's look at this thing objectively too. This is Deshaun Watson's first actual bad game, and it came against the Pats in New England. Now, look, he's still only 22 years old and doesn't have a full 16 starts to his name yet. Would I like to have seen him not make some of the poor decisions? Of course. Am I concerned? Not remotely. He's going to have bad games. He's going to have games that are much worse than this one. He's going to have some multi-interception absolute disasters that will make you want to gouge your eyes out. Every quarterback does. I mean, Brady has bad games, Rodgers has bad games, it happens. What he has shown is that he has the tools and the drive and the just natural ability to turn in one hell of a lot more gems than stinkers. And that is what you should hopefully take away from this at the end of the day, is that yes, it was bad, but I don't think that that's going to be the trend going forward. And luckily, next week, we'll be facing off against the Titans, who are not the Patriots, to be polite to them. And they did not show well in their game last week. So, That's all I had for this week. As always, I'm your host, John. If you have any comments or requests for the next episode, you can find me on Twitter at 7not6. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Straight from the Dome podcast, where you can catch me and my co-host Justin breaking down sports, life, a new beer, just whatever strikes us as interesting that week. So with everything being said, everybody be safe, everybody be cool, and I will see you next time.